Hey, I'm back to talk about one more area of decision making in my process of choosing to get a mastectomy the first time around. And today's topic is that of what I wish I knew about getting an aesthetic flat closure or some sort of flat closure, or also known as not getting reconstruction after mastectomy. So, this is an area that I totally missed out on prior to mastectomy, unfortunately, and many women do. Many women don't ever meet someone or hear the story of someone who was very happy with getting a flat outcome after surgery or not getting any reconstruction. And I'm very eager to talk about this part of my story because I feel like it is so important that people hear about this option. So, some of the things that I really regret not knowing about flat closure, which really I knew nothing about it, honestly, prior to my mastectomy, are number one, I wish I had known what the name of the closure itself was, what the name of the incision style was, so that I could see a picture of it. Turns out the name of the incision is transverse. And I'm wearing a very tight-fitting camisole today so that I can kind of show you on my own body what it looks like. I still have my little lump here, and so I don't have a perfectly flat closure, but I definitely don't have reconstruction after mastectomy. Transverse incision line is either straight across or a little bit angled. And what it allows is your skin to be stretched tight and for you to have a lot of flatness in your skin. And sometimes you will also, especially if you have larger breasts like myself, you will also have a chunk of flesh here called a dog ear that is kind of left over afterwards. And sometimes you won't, especially if they do it really well and do a diagonal line, they can get that dog ear as well as your breast itself. And I had no idea that there was such an incision. I looked up all kinds of incisions, and most of the stuff I found online I think was pretty outdated. Even what I did find was outdated. Most incisions are the anchor shape where they cut under your breast and then down from the nipple. Usually taking out the whole areola, but down from the areola. And that is definitely the most common style these days. When I went and asked my first plastic surgeon what style of incision she was going to be doing, she just acted like I was really dumb. And of course she was going to be doing that anchor style. But I didn't know because I looked online and found all kinds of different styles and didn't really understand the difference. But I never got informed about the transverse style of incision. And this is the style of incision that most women who have gone flat get if they haven't gotten a Goldilocks mastectomy. I have another video on Goldilocks, so I won't go into that. Goldilocks is still what I'm hoping to get. It was what I hoped to get the first time around, and it's what I'm hoping to get on my second mastectomy as well. There's no guarantee, if they find cancer in your skin, then you're going to have to give up some extra skin, which is what happened. I had precancer in my skin on this side, so I didn't have quite enough to do Goldilocks. But I did know about Goldilocks only because my surgeon told me about it. I didn't know about the transverse option, and I wish that I had. Secondly, I wish that I had known that Goldilocks could be flat. So again, for women with a bigger breast size or larger BMI, so body weight in general, you will have more concavity here. I have some concavity over here on the side. And with a higher BMI, you'll have even more of that kind of inward going slope of your chest if you get the transverse incision. But you can also get a flat style of Goldilocks mastectomy that just creates kind of an even mound and puts a little bit more flesh over on this side. I wish that I had known that was an option, and I wish that I had planned to have that as my second choice, since my Goldilocks, my perfect Goldilocks of having a little bit of an external mound didn't pan out. I wish that I had had a little bit more flesh under here, and maybe that wouldn't have been something that they could have done, but I wish that I had planned to do that and just known that there was a lot of variability and a lot of options within the title of Goldilocks mastectomy, which is an overlapping of skin, so using your skin as padding instead of an implant. I wish I'd known about dog ears, so I do have a dog ear here. When I wear a prosthetic, it starts here and it goes out to here, and the dog ear looks pretty natural. But because for the majority of the rest of my life I am expecting to not wear a prosthetic, especially once I get this side reduced and have a flat closure or a Goldilocks mastectomy on this side, I don't expect to wear prosthetics. So I don't really love this chunk of flesh that sticks out right here, the dog ear, and I'm wearing this top so that you can see it really well and see how much it does stick out. Many plastic surgeons will say, oh, if you have a dog ear, we'll do a surgery again later and take care of it. I didn't want multiple surgeries. I still don't want multiple surgeries. I'm ending up having multiple surgeries, but I would talk to your doctor or your surgeon about trying to avoid second, third, fourth surgeries just to make things look perfect in the end, and maybe addressing the dog ears the first time around if you're interested in avoiding multiple anesthesias. There's a lot of health implications to multiple anesthesias. Surgeons will not acknowledge that, but if you look it up, dementia is highly, the risk for dementia is going up with every anesthesia that we have. And so I don't take anesthesias lightly, and that's one of the reasons I didn't get implants or didn't get a deep flap procedure, because I know that each anesthesia is going to affect my brain negatively. And so I kind of wish that my surgeons had taken care of my dog ear in my first surgery, at least a little better than they did. Now, some surgeons will say this is actually really good. It looks good comparatively. I'm not in love with it. And I know that you can't have everything, but I wish I had known to expect to have a dog ear here. And I think that I would be a little more prepared for it if I had known ahead of time that that was something that might show up after surgery. The next two things are about flat culture, and there is a very strong community of women who have had a flat closure or Goldilocks mastectomy, at least one, and sometimes two, most of the time two. And I didn't know anything about this ahead of time before I made my decision about whether to go flat. Of course, I didn't know about going flat, so how could I? But now I know about flat culture, and so I wanted to share two things that I would love to have known about flat culture and the flat community ahead of time. The first thing is they're not very discriminating. So you can be a uniboob like me and have one breast remaining and have gone somewhat flat on the other side, and you're considered a part of the flat community. You can be prophylactic, so you can just know about your genetic risk factors and decide without having cancer to go flat either on one side or both sides. Most times it's both sides in that case. And you're a member of the flat community even if you didn't have cancer. You can have a benign breast disease, a disease that does not involve cancer, and get both breasts removed and go flat either with a Goldilocks or transverse incision. And you're a member of the flat community. So it's very welcoming, all-embracing. It's just about representing the reality of what happens to our bodies even before we get implants, if we did get implants. We are the physical representation of what it looks like to lose your breast. And some women get implants right away and they never see what they looked like without their breasts. And maybe they're really glad about that. But we are the kind of the stark reality of what breastlessness looks like. And we have a lot of pride in the flat culture about that and are not ashamed of it. And we're very body positive, and it's a very powerful, amazing group of women to be a part of. And I highly recommend that you check it out. And the social aspect, finally, this is my last point, the social aspect of flat culture is not what I expected. So when I finally did meet some flatties in person and got together with them, I thought it was going to be kind of a time to process what we'd all gone through, kind of like a cancer support group or breast cancer support group would be, and get into some emotions and start to process our grief and our shame and our body problems and body image problems. It was none of that. The flat community in a social setting is really representative of celebration and normalcy. And it is really there to help you celebrate your body and all of its uniqueness and to feel as though you're not alone and that there's solidarity. And really that's all it's there to do. You might make a friend there and process some of your grief and your shame and your emotions in that context of that friendship. But in terms of all of the events that the flat community sponsors and hosts and puts together across the nation, at least in the US, what I've found is that it's more of a celebration of our new bodies and a celebration of our freedom from breast cancer and a celebration of our uniqueness and body positivity as the theme of all, and making sure that we all feel like we're understood and in a physical way that we're not alone, and that there is some sense of normalcy to our new body's reality. And that's really powerful. It seems really simple in some ways. It's not as complex as diving into your emotions and your loss, but the physicality of seeing another woman's body that looks like yours in some way and having them not be ashamed of it is so image changing, like self-image affecting. And I can't really even describe how powerful it is. And I'm so glad that I found this group of women and that I've discovered that about them. So just really highly encourage you to go out and learn more about being flat. And I'll probably make more videos about it, especially after I am fully flat. But just so you know, it's a really, really powerful, life-changing, life-affirming community that can be so crucial. And I think especially for those of us who do have shame and who do have grief and have a lot of loss around losing our breasts, I think it can be really pivotal, even though it's not really there to address those things in a psychological or emotional or spiritual way. It's really just there about celebration and affirmation. So, and forgive me if I have misrepresented your experience and that is not true of what you found, but that is definitely what I found, at least here on the West Coast. And I think it's pretty true of everyone across the community, across the nation. So super glad to have found them. And so those are the few things that I wish I would have known, the really basic things that I wish I would have known about flat closure and some of the vocabulary that goes along with it. Again, I didn't dive into Goldilocks because it's a little more complex and I have a whole other video about that. So I'll point you, actually I have a couple videos about that. So I'll point you to those up above and down below if you're interested in hearing more about that procedure. And I will see you in my next video. Be sure to subscribe if you're interested in these topics. I'll have more to come for sure. And I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.